Seniors of Minnesota. We bring seniors 50 plus together.
Learn about and discuss issues that are important to Minnesotans. Hear from our elected officials and experts on public policy.
Meet political candidates, elect delegates to district and state conventions, and help elect Republicans to office at all levels.
We believe in and advocate for the principles of personal responsibility, economic prosperity, peace through strong national defense,
and limited, sensible government. Republican Seniors of Minnesota, thanks for joining us.
I'm very trusting. The black rag is mine. Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, this one's mine. This one's mine. That's not mine. I have 15 people at my house. No, I don't know. Four homes stayed overnight, 2 nights. I finally told them, you can't do this. I told them this is crazy. I love to take people's money. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome, and a special welcome to those attending via our video live stream, which probably includes our longtime volunteer, Sarah. She was in an automobile accident a week ago, is recovering from broken ribs, and she said she would try to come in via live stream. So we hope that she'll be here soon. I'm Carol Brumwell. I'm chair of the Republican Seniors of Minnesota and your MC for this meeting. The meeting is being live streamed today, also recorded by our volunteers. We'll be ending the formal part of our meeting early today, probably around 11:15. This gives us additional time for anyone who wants to renew their membership to stop by the back table. Gives you time to stop by our book exchange table, and additional time for you to talk with each other, particularly about the candidates in your district and how you plan to vote. A few quick meeting courtesy reminders. This helps others enjoy the meeting and also shows respect for our speakers. Please turn off or silence your cell phones. Take side conversations out the side of the room. Close those east doors, then you can have a conversation. Whispers only in the room. And I know some of us are hard of hearing, but let's take those louder side conversations out of the room. Wait for the microphone. It's a large room. You think you have a booming voice. I think I have a booming voice. But the microphone is necessary both for those who are watching on video and also for the people in the room. The area that is closest to the beverage station, there's about 3 chairs in, that area is off camera. So if you're given the microphone, move to the center of the room so others can see and hear you. Sound check. Are you able to hear me? I know that we were turned up pretty high. We're good, Chuck? Okay. Okay. Please join me in an opening prayer. Gracious God, we thank you for this opportunity to gather for a meeting. We thank you for each and every one who is here today. Please bless our speakers this day. Help them to communicate clearly the knowledge they have to share. We pray for our candidates who are seeking government office. Keep them and their volunteers safe as they meet with and educate voters. Open the hearts and minds of voters to consider who best reflects their values. We pray for those now in office. Give them wisdom during these divisive times to do what is right. Help them make laws to protect our freedoms so that we can live in peaceful, quiet lives, godliness, and dignity. Help righteous judges balance justice and mercy and judge in accordance with the laws of the land. We pray for the people of Israel, a year after the massive attack by terrorists, and now under continued attacks. Comfort the families of those killed and injured, and those kidnapped whose fate is yet unknown a year later. Be with all those still in harm's way. Help their leaders make wise decisions in the weeks ahead. Please be with each of us. Help us to see in all others the gifts they are employing to carry out your will. Amen. We'd like to acknowledge our military and veterans, active or retired police officers, and first responders. Will those people please stand to be recognized? And now will the rest of you stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. If you have a brief announcement that you'd like to make, we have time for those 30-second announcements at the end of the meeting, just before the door prize drawing. You are welcome to stay in the room for long-time conversations. We have the room until noon today. We're doing seating within cities and counties today, and so it's optional. We hope that this helps you find somebody else who's in your neighborhood, gives you a chance to talk about what's going on in your area, maybe find somebody to carpool with, whatever. It's optional. I'm going to be looking for some feedback. I'll probably do an online survey asking how you liked this. We're not going to do it every meeting. We probably won't be doing it in November, but let's see if we like doing this occasionally. The board has set membership dues for 2025. They're going to be $25 for individuals, $40 for couple. We started collecting those dues today. Those who are current 2024 members were sent an email inviting you to mail in a check to avoid the line. We'll continue to collect dues in November and January. You can pay in person at any meeting, but we wanted to get started so that we have the paperwork ready for 2025. We're still tracking our progress on our 2024 goals. We have met our membership goal, which was really a stretch. We have more than 240 paid members now. Yay! And we have met our meeting goal of having more than 120 people at least 6 meetings. I think we're at 7 and counting. Your help is requested each month at the MNGOP office at the corner of 494 and Normandale in Edina. On the third Thursdays, a group of us get together and stuff the envelopes with the receipts for those who have so generously donated to the party, so those can be mailed out. People can get their PCR rebate. You have until April, by the way. If you've got some receipts hanging around, you have until April to get those to the state of Minnesota to get your state refund for up to 75 individual, 150 a couple. Our organization does not issue PCRs. We are not one of those that are listed as eligible, but all the state candidates and the state BPOUs, your Senate district, your House district, and the Republican Party of Minnesota are all eligible to send you those PCR receipts. At any rate, we can use more volunteers. We've got thousands of letters to mail, I've been told. Next Thursday, have a sign-up sheet here that has the exact address. If you want to sign up, that's fine. I'll make sure that you're listed as being expected. Otherwise, just show up at the MNGOP offices. Early voting is available now by mail and absentee ballot and in person at early voting locations. Starting October 18th, which is a week from Friday, you can put your early ballot into a tabulator at the early voting locations. Otherwise, your ballot will go to your county's absentee ballot board, where it will start being opened on, I believe, October 19th. I'm not sure on the dates of that. And they will be putting it in tabulators for you. Election day is November 5th. It's coming very quickly. And all the candidates can use your volunteer help, your financial support, and your prayers. Election judges are still needed, particularly in Minneapolis. I have the information up here on how to become an election judge. I saw a notice in the City of Bloomington paper that they were looking for election judges still, which really surprised me. But contact the city clerk in your area or the county elections board if you're willing to take up that role, and they need them for early voting, they need them for going to health care facilities here in the month of October, and then, of course, on Election Day. I am looking to see if Jennifer DeJornet is in the room. Jennifer? I do not see her. She had requested as a candidate, which she is running for the Parks District, to speak for 3 minutes. So we will go on and very early start our featured speaker. Brian Peters is the Executive Director of the Minnesota Police and Peace Officers Association. That's MPPOA for those who like acronyms. MPPOA is the trade association of Minnesota's rank-and-file police officers. It's their voice at the Capitol with government relations, the voice in the media, as well as providing legal defense fund for officers. Brian became the executive director in 2019 after serving as a police officer in Brooklyn Center and leading security for Target Corporation. The past 5 years have been the hardest for the profession. Brian will brief us on the current status of law enforcement in the state of Minnesota. Please welcome Brian Peters.
Thank you, Carol. Good. You stole my thunder of everything I was going to talk about. Again, thank you for having me. My name is Brian Peters. I'm the current executive director of the Minnesota Police and Peace Officers Association. We represent over 10,800 rank-and-file cops across the state. As Carol said, we do all the legislative advocacy at the Capitol, both here at the state level and the federal level. So I have lobbyists that help us kill, bad bills for cops and promote good bills for cops. A little bit about myself. Like Carol said, I was a police officer in Brooklyn Center. I left in 2015 at the rank of commander. I was starting to look for chief's jobs, and Target Corporation recruited me over to work there. I led their global crisis management program, and the last 2 years at Target, I did security and logistics for the top executives at Target. One time I was in India, and I got a call from my old union president at Brooklyn Center who said, hey, there's this really cool executive director job for the MPPOA. What are your thoughts? And he said, I think you'd be good at it because you always understood, working together, whether it's admin and rank and file, doing what's best for the profession. That was 10 months before COVID and George Floyd. One other big component about our job is our legal defense fund. So our members pay in dues, and if you have the potential or you are charged criminally with a crime, we have 13 of the top attorneys in the state that represent you free of charge. So you can imagine we've been very busy with our legal defense fund. From Derek Chauvin to Kim Potter, and Kim I worked with for over 15 years and is such a great person. And these cases have now become political. And I'll talk a little bit about, what we've done differently since the Chauvin trial and Kim, and you've probably heard about Trooper Ryan Londrigan, and I'll get into that a little bit. But again, I'm also served in the Marine Corps. So I love the military, love representing cops because it's so important right now. The state of law enforcement. Since in the last 4 years, we have seen such a political change when it comes to how cops are treated. And one, it's sad, it's unjust, but that's why we exist, and that's why we've gotten better at what we do. The state of law enforcement right now, we're 1,000 cops down in the state. Think about that, 1,000 cops. A lot of that makes up Minneapolis, St. Paul, some of the bigger agencies. But as you're seeing, too, with being 1,000 cops down, and you don't have people coming into this profession at the rates that we saw in the 90s and early 2000s, where you'd be up against 1,000 candidates in some cities. And now we're seeing 5, 6, 12. And more importantly, in the next 2 years, there's going to be 2,400 people, cops, that are eligible to retire. So again, think about that. We're already 1,000 cops down, and we have 2,400 that are eligible to retire in the next 24 months. And we don't have people coming into this profession. Why? Well, the demonization of cops at the political level, it starts there. And we've really changed how we fight back, because we have to. Trooper Ryan Londrigan went out and did his job. And we want to talk about the suspect in that case and give them more credit than that cop that just went out to do his job. Now we have people like, I'm not even going to say her name, the county attorney in Hennepin County. I don't even want to say her name. If you look at Trooper Ryan's case, she charged Trooper Ryan not based off of the use of force law of deadly force, but violated his training. Never seen that before, that he violated his training. And she's accused the state patrol of not cooperating during that investigation, which is absolutely false. Now, obviously, I have integral knowledge on these cases because the Legal Defense Fund pays for the attorneys. And one other thing I just want to hit on of what the Legal Defense Fund does from a family standpoint is we also provide death benefits to the family. We have attorneys that do all the paperwork at the federal level and state level, so those families can grieve, and they don't have to worry about how am I going to pay my mortgage? How am I going to pay my kids' college? So that's one important aspect that I just wanted to point out that we do free of charge for the families. And, you know, you think about the two Burnsville cops and firefighters that were killed. You have Jamal Mitchell in Minneapolis that was killed. So we provide that service to them. And it's good. It's humbling to sit across from those parents, spouses, to see how they're grieving because their loved one went out to do their job. But it's an important aspect of what we provide for those families. So going back to Trooper Ryan, he's charged on violating his training. She accused people not cooperating, again, false, and then convened a grand jury and brought in trainers from the State Patrol. Out of a 36-page declaration, she took out one sentence that she used to charge Trooper Ryan. The scary thing is, during this case, we proved on multiple levels she's lying. We took those same trainers, and under oath, they said they took my words out of context. I got to know Ryan and Grace, his wife. They have a little son named John. Many people don't know that Ryan and Grace aren't from Minnesota. They're from Connecticut. They moved here because Grace got into a PhD program at the University of Minnesota. And Ryan, being Ryan, said, I want to be a state trooper. He became a state trooper, and July of last year is when their world came crashing down because of a rogue politician that was set on charging a cop. To see what they had to go through for almost a year was heartbreaking. Good family. And the fact that after we put so much pressure from a politics standpoint in this case is the reason why the charges were dropped. So let me talk a little bit about that. The governor is the only person that can take a case away from a county attorney. The attorney general can't, but the governor can. It's only happened twice in history. One was a case decades ago, and the other case was a Mary Moriarty. I said her name. All right, I'll say her name. The other case was a Mary Moriarty case that stemmed out of Brooklyn Park, where 2 juveniles executed a mother. The mother knew these juveniles. And if you're not familiar with the case, it's a case where ex-boyfriend hired these people to kill new boyfriend. Instead, they ended up killing the mom who had kids, and they were going to get less than a year in jail. And her excuse was that their brains aren't formed until 28. Yep. So we lobbied Governor Walz to take this case away. He eventually did. And I think one juvenile just got 10 years, and another's still waiting. But there doesn't seem to be any responsibility for criminals anymore. So I got a call. Mary Moriarty had a press conference at 6 o'clock on a Sunday evening. Ask yourself, who does that? Sunday evening at 6 o'clock. The reason is she knew the governor was going to take this case away from her. That would have been the 3rd time in history that's happened twice under her. My personal feelings, she's a narcissist and couldn't let that happen. So Ryan had to spend almost a year going through hell because of her political vengeance. We decided to fight back and fight back hard. And that's what we did. We did a lot of media. This was an everyday grind. When Ryan was charged, within 24 hours, I had a team in a conference room saying, what are we going to do? And that team did exceptional on every front. We didn't let up, because that's the game that we have to play now with some of these politicians. And it's unfortunate, again, that in this case, Trooper Ryan went out and did his job. Ricky Cobb was a convicted felon. He had a pickup for felony domestic assault out of Ramsey. And lo and behold, he had a gun in the car. More than likely, why he fled that night. Ryan was a hero. He saved his partner's life. And we need to honor that, not honor the bad behavior of a convicted felon. We're going to continue to fight. And hopefully we've sent a message that the rank and file cops that are asked to do their job, each and every day they put that badge on. They don't go out saying, I can't wait to shoot somebody tonight, right? It's just ridiculous. They go out and protect and serve so that we can all be safe. And unfortunately, because of a lot of politics, they're afraid to do their job, especially in Hennepin County. I hear from cops all the time that I don't know if I want to go out and make that traffic stop. I'm afraid of losing my livelihood and freedom, like Ryan Londrigan. like Kim Potter, like the Minneapolis officers. I was talking to Dale earlier, and the people that go out and protect and serve and try to manage what government hasn't been able to fix for decades, whether it's homelessness, drug abuse, you name it, they're the ones that are judged. They're the ones that are prosecuted. And where in any of these cases has leadership been held accountable? Think about the Minneapolis case, Derek Chauvin and the other officers. Did you ever see leadership being held accountable? Nope, it's the rank and file cop that's thrown under the bus. We need to change that. If we don't, how many people go to Minneapolis? St. Paul? You look at these cities, my office is in St. Paul, and my deputy director, Dave Titus, who was a St. Paul cop for a number of years, and then went to the county, recently retired. He's now my deputy director. I asked him the other day when we were having lunch, I said, it's like zombies walking around these cities. So you have to ask yourself, why? Where is that? It's leadership. It's not holding people accountable. But yet you want to hold that man or woman that put on that badge accountable for making a split-second decision and doing their job. That's kind of the state right now. I don't have a lot of positive news when it comes to law enforcement because we're facing a crisis. And you look at, I saw Burnsville, I see Bloomington, even Edina. It wasn't until we had some carjackings in Edina that people started to speak up. Like, what's going on here? We need to hold our elected officials accountable. We need to hold judges and prosecutors accountable. And it's just not happening. And hopefully, if I have my way, the county attorney in Hennepin County won't be the county attorney anymore.
We're lucky, really. It's sad.
And I think that Ryan's case was a case that demonstrated we're not going to put up with any more of this crap. We are going to fight back. We are going to put the pressure on you. And that's why many of you probably know Jim Schultz, ran for Attorney General. We supported him. Him and I did an ethics complaint on Mary. And hopefully she will be held accountable because she lied multiple times. How can she get away with that? And hopefully it sends a message to other people that in the system, whether it's a county attorney, whether it's a judge, that we are not going to just stand by anymore and let this happen. Interesting enough, throughout this process, I got many calls from other county attorneys saying, hey, just so you know, I would have never charged this. I would have never charged this. Because I think we sent a message that we're not going to stand by. We're not going to stand by for someone that does their job and does it right, and now you want to steal their livelihood, ruin a family, and make things unsafe. So what do we do? Well, like I said, MPPOA is fighting back aggressively now. We have a new strategy. Anyone see the press conference with Chris Maddle, Brian's attorney, Mr. Nagel? That's something that we've done at the MPPOA is Chris Maddle, okay? Very successful corporate attorney. You have people like him that came to me 2 years ago, asked to have lunch, and we're very selective of who we put on our attorney panel. You need to be the best of the best. So I didn't know Chris. He calls and asks, can I go to lunch with you? And I said, sure. So me and another attorney met him in Minneapolis, and he sat down and he said, I'm tired of seeing what I'm seeing when it comes to the demonization of cops. I want to give back, and I want to be on your panel. Chris represented Kirby Puckett when Kirby went through his legal issues. But again, what he bills out is nothing compared to what we pay at the MPPOA. But he said it's not about money for me. It's about creating a different narrative. And this was actually Chris's first case with us. He's been on the panel, and how we do our figuring out which lawyer's on a case is we have an on-call rotation. And when this case came up, I said, we need to think differently. We need someone fresh on this. And Chris was that person. And he nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. He was relentless. I told him, I hope I never piss you off. I'll tell you a quick side story. When Mary couldn't find a use of force expert to support her theory, and she shopped around. She wanted to find someone to say that, yep, Ryan was wrong. She couldn't. Even the person that she first hired came back and said, Ryan did his job. So what did she do? She went out to find more. And if you followed the case, you know that the lead attorney from Hennepin County ended up leaving the case. Nobody in her office would take this case. So what did she do? She hired an outside firm out of Washington. Out of Washington. Yeah, Washington, D.C. A firm called Steptoe, one of the 5 largest firms in the world. Who lives in Hennepin County? Well, you paid for it. Almost $800,000 in 1 month. And Chris Maddle actually lives in Hennepin County, and he was furious. I was at the first court appearance where this dream team came in, and they were horrible. Horrible. And eventually they came back and exonerated Ryan as well. That's the length that this county attorney was going to go to convict Ryan. So where do we go? We continue to fight. Obviously, I'm going to get some questions about endorsements and politics. That's what my organization does, and it's tough. But we need to get back to safety and security. We need to get back to being tough on crime, that there's consequences. I don't even like going to the big cities anymore. We all see it. But what do? We got to put people in office that are going to bring civility back, 1, to this profession, but 2, to this state. We're not too far off to being a Chicago, Illinois, or Seattle. And unfortunately, from my perspective in the last 5 years, we seem to be going down that route. I don't know about you guys. I'm sure many of you have kids, but I worry about my kids' future. My son goes to Iowa State. Go Cyclones. They're 5-0. But him and his wife are like, we're staying in Iowa. We don't want to go back to Minnesota. My daughter's 19, and I worry about her, just even driving. So I appreciate, I know I'm speaking to the choir here, that you support law enforcement, and one, thank you. We need it. We need it bad. We're going to continue to fight and be outspoken. You don't see other organizations speaking up on these issues. And we need voices. We need people like yourselves to be a part of that change, to be a part of that movement. And I know it starts at the election box, and we got a big race coming up for the state of Minnesota. One party ruling an entire state is dangerous. And I've talked to a couple of, I spend more time trying to kill anti-police bills than what I should be doing is spending time on the good bills. So at the MPPOA in the last 5 years, it's been very challenging. So we decided to figure out a new solution. Hired a deputy director. We have a team of people now that are just focused on legislative issues. And we're going to go to the Capitol, and we're going to be a stronger voice than what we have been in the last 5 years to make some of these changes. And the whole defund the police, it's still out there. It's still out there, which is sad. With all that we've seen in what's happening, whether it's with carjackings, whether it's with, I just saw a story the other day of a 10-year-old, in a pursuit. I mean, come on. Do any of you remember that when you were a kid? Do any of you remember people at every corner intersection begging for money? No. That's where we're heading in our society. We need to get back to law and order. We need to get back to holding people accountable for their actions and figure out how do we move forward. But it starts with that. And it starts with holding other people that are making these decisions accountable. And that's what we did with her. And I hope at the end of the day, she is held accountable. Because someone in her position that lies, and lies. And we can provide the facts each time. There should be accountability for that. So with that, sorry I don't have a lot of positive news, but the takeaway positive is that the MPPOA exists to fight for that woman or man that put on that badge each and every night to protect us. That fight is big. And I know everyone in this room supports law enforcement. We're not perfect. It's part of the reason why I took this job. I wanted to make this profession better. I wanted to uplift the profession. But we will hold elected officials accountable for their lack of leadership or poor decision making. So with that, thank you for having me here today. And I'll take questions because I'm sure there's a lot of them.
Hold on a second. We'll wait for the microphones, and this gentleman here has the microphone first.
Thanks for being here. I'm Ken Slendy. I live in Bloomington. What is the average cop's attitude toward the pretextual stops that are no longer being made? I drove around with plates 10 months out of date, never got stopped. That's my fault. But today I am dumbfounded by the number of plateless cars cars without plates on the front of their car. Teslas, I'll bet, run 40% of the cars are no plates on the front. Anything that's sporty, no plates on the front, that's a law in Minnesota, and we don't care, obviously.
So a couple things with that. First, I want to do a plug. If you've seen the new black plates, there's a new black plate from the Minnesota 100 Club. There's one that is plain, and there's one that actually talks about first responders. It's the Minnesota 100 Club. And the Minnesota 100 Club is an organization made up of private citizens and businesses that when there is someone seriously injured on the job or gets killed in the line of duty, within 48 hours, they have a check to the family for, right now, $50,000. So by you supporting those plates, that money goes directly to that organization, and it's an important organization. To your point, I'm actually on a panel that right now the legislature, out of the last session, wanted to create a task force to look at cops not being able to stop versus tabs. What I've learned is they make a lot of money on tabs. And, you know, this comes out of Kim Potter's case where the car was stopped for not having tabs. We're totally against that. But we're in the process of trying to figure out, does that make sense or not? From law enforcement standpoint, no. But we take direction from the legislature. So if the legislature is going to say you can't stop for tabs, we're not going to be able to do that. But we're actively engaged in those conversations, so we'll see what happens there. Hopefully that answers your question. Thank you.
Next over here.
Yeah. Yes, I have a comment. I had a friend who lives in Minneapolis complaining about the crime that's going on downtown. And I told him, my response to him was, the Democrat Party is for the criminals. Because every legislation that I've ever seen has been proposed for the criminals was done by Democrats. So keep that in your voting.
Thank you.
That a good point when it comes to Minneapolis. And I have 2 Minneapolis cops. I report to a board of directors, all cops. 2 of my board of directors are Minneapolis cops. One is Cheryl Schmidt. She's at the Federation. She's the head of the union. And the second is a sergeant who works nights. And it's ironic. I shouldn't use the word hilarious, that you have leaders come out saying crime is down. Yeah. The reason why crime is down is you don't have people reporting crimes. You don't have enough cops to be able to respond to those crimes. So of course, numbers-wise, crime is down. I always say, go down to Hennepin Avenue one evening. Spend some time there. You want to say crime is down? Ridiculous. That's, again, a lack of poor leadership and trying to swing and get people back downtown. That's unfortunate because it's not true. Crime is not down. Don't even get me started on the media. That's another hour-long presentation. Dale.
Hi, I'm Ryan Dale Johnson. I am a resident in Bloomington, and I think those people who live in Bloomington are blessed to have Chief Booker Hodges. He is an excellent chief, and I wish we had more chiefs like that in other places. 2 questions really quick. Is the Minneapolis, just yes or no, is the Minneapolis current chief better than we've had for a while? And judges. Sometimes there's no option, but when there is, how do we know which judges to vote for? Because it's still voting time.
The first question, Chief O'Hara, I don't know very well. You know, he came from the East Coast. I think he's up against a lot of bad management and leadership. His hands are kind of tied. You know, I know that he's trying to get cops in. They just renegotiated their contract to raise wages, but you still don't have people wanting to work there. You know, you can pay them whatever you want, but if they feel like they're not going to be supported, or they feel they're going to be charged with a crime from the rogue county attorney, who would want to work there? And what we're seeing, because of a lack of recruiting and retention, is you have, now let's talk about outstate Minnesota. You have these small departments that are having to close their doors because they can't get people there. Right now, if you're a cop, you have the pick of the litter of where you can work. That's reality. So you have these small agencies losing cops all the time to go to a Lakeville or go to a Duluth where they can make more money, and you have these small departments shutting their doors. Judges, that's a tough one. You know, I look at the election ballot, and, you know, you see these judges, and you don't know who they are. And typically, I don't even cast a vote because I don't know who they are. And judges are an integral part of our justice system. And when you're soft on crime, that has a domino effect in every community. And I wish judges and prosecutors were held as accountable as that cop. They're not. Don't get me wrong. There's good judges out there. There's good prosecutors out there. We just don't see them in the metro. We have a problem in the metro. And that needs to change. So Dale, I unfortunately I can't answer your question articulately when it comes to judges. I just, it's tough. You don't know who they are.
Thank you.
Oh, who's got the mic?
So one comment, first of all, my wife and I grew up about a mile from where the riots were, and she refuses to go back to Minneapolis. I still go back for my favorite ribs, but that's kind of beside the point. That's about the only reason.
You're rolling the dice.
But my question is this. So I'm guessing a lot of people have watched the movie The Fall of Minneapolis. Is anything being done for Derek Chauvin at this time?
So obviously I know a lot about that case, and I know Derek has kind of exhausted all of his legal challenges, which is unfortunate. I know Thomas Lane, again, young kid, I think 2 days off of field training, just recently got out of prison. I talked with him early August, and what he and Tutau and King had to go through was terrible. One of the things that I did, and again, that case was so politically driven worldwide that you had to stop the bleeding. And my work happens a lot behind the scenes. And should they have gone to prison? Absolutely not. But I couldn't stop that train. But what I could do is negotiate the best term for them so they didn't spend 12 years, 20 years in jail. Any time that they did, in my opinion, wrong. But at least we could work behind the scenes from a political standpoint to get them the best deal so eventually they could get on with their life. And when I talked to Tom, I said, "How you doing?" He said, "I'm happy to be able to start a new life." And he's not sitting in jail. Originally, they were looking at potentially 12 years. And he had a young wife, a baby on the way, but he can at least start over. So I'm happy of the work we did behind the scenes to get those guys, the littlest, term that they could. We did the same thing in Kim Potter. Now I know in Kim, the case went to the Attorney General, Keith Ellison. And I'll give him credit. He came to me and said I want to talk to you about Kim. I don't think she should go to jail for 12 years. But your attorneys, I need help with them. And so behind the scenes, we negotiated what Kim eventually got. And again, I spent 12 years working with her. Nicest person you'd ever meet. The type of person that if you called, maybe hadn't talked to her for years and said, I need help, she'd be there. I talk to Kim frequently. She's moving on with her life. She's actually working with a law firm called Eckberg Lammers, where they have a training component called LETAC. And she's going around speaking about what happened that day. For her, that's the healing aspect of that. That just shows her character and the type of person that she is. And I'll say the same about Ryan Londrigan, what he had to go through for almost a year. The fact that he still wants to go back to work shows his character, shows the passion in this profession. Most people would be like, I'm done, I'm out of here. I'm moving back home. I'm moving out of this state. Those are the people that we want in law enforcement. And I'm happy to say, I talked to Ryan last week, and Ryan's gone around, and Ryan's a very, very humble person. I asked him, hey, I'm forgetting the group up in Champlin that meets.
Liberty Tea Party.
Yeah. I asked him, hey, would you come up? They want to honor you. And Chris Maddow came too. And Ryan's not a public speaker. Most troopers aren't. Any troopers in the room? No. They're not public speakers. But Ryan said, hey, I'll do anything you ever ask me to do because you saved my life. That's just the character. That's the face behind some of these cases.
So, first of all, thank you so much for being here and sharing these stories with us. I just got back from Jerry Hiller, and I'm a Bloomington resident. Okay, is that better? I'm not a public speaker, I guess, huh? I just got back from Portland as a side story here, and we're returning our rental car, have to top the gas off. So I'm in the vicinity of the airport looking to put some gas in the car and find a place for my wife to go to the bathroom before we head to the airport. We go to 3 different gas stations. None of them had a public bathroom. And I asked the third one I go into, which is also a convenience store, I said, so you're one person here. What do you do when you have to go to the bathroom? He says, well, we have a bathroom. We just don't make it available to the public. I said, paying public even? He said, yeah, it's we just don't do it. Well, what's up with that? He says, well, it's a sketchy neighborhood. And this is in Portland proper, in the vicinity of the airport. So, as you say, the road we're headed on, that's an example. It's like a third world country. My question, too, real quick one. You mentioned we're down 1,000 police officers. How many in the state of Minnesota, how many police officers are there? To contextualize that.
About 11,000, and again, we represent 99% of all rank and file cops across the state. My organization, we're not the union, but all the unions across the state pay dues into the MPPOA for that legislative advocacy as well as the legal defense fund. So we're at about 11,000 in the state.
About 10% down.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. And you mentioned 24.
But again, the scary thing is we don't have the people coming into the profession.
Which is my last question here, as you mentioned 2,400 set to retire.
Yep.
And that was over what period of time?
24 months.
Okay.
You know, we tried at the legislature this last session to do a reemployment bill that other states do, where a police officer in Minnesota, and we have the highest educational standards in the United States to become a police officer in Minnesota. So one of the things that we wanted to do is there's other states that, okay, let me back up. A police officer in Minnesota can retire at 50. 55 is the top. If you retire at 50, each year up to 55, you take a 2% hit on your pension. So we have cops at 50 saying, I'm done. I'll take the hit on my pension. I don't want to do this anymore. And at 55, you can retire with your full pension. And other states have this reemployment program where at 55, if your department decides to participate in a reemployment program, you can start collecting your pension at 55 and still continue working. And we tried passing similar legislation because we need the people with the experience to not walk out that door because we don't have the people coming into the door. And we're going to look at bringing that back because obviously there's a price tag to that. And, you know, who knows what is going to be available for a budget since, you know, $18 billion, was spent. And, you know, I know that a lot of legislators go around and talk about, well, law enforcement, public safety got $300 million. That's a drop in the bucket. That's a drop in the bucket when it comes to government spending. Where's your priorities? It should be in looking at this crisis of recruiting and retention. And right after the Chauvin trial, when Minneapolis started losing a lot of cops, I was so vocal of what are we going to do to replace them. And it's just fallen on deaf ears, and instead it's been, how are we going to make stopping, tabs illegal? Those sort of things, ridiculous things, instead of focusing on public safety and getting people in the door, making this profession, uplifting it.
I'm not going back, Brian.
Okay.
You sure? John, are you want to come back?
Yes. Hear me? Yes, I do.
Yeah.
It's on. Can you hear me? Yeah, I would. You give me a car, I'll come back. I would.
And hey, I'm just going to give a plug for him. He was there day one supporting Ryan Londrigan. He was at his court appearances. If you all saw when we had the shirts made for Trooper Ryan, and we had over 300 people at one of his court appearances down in the lobby. And what did she say? It was a January 6th tactic that we did. And, John was there. It's majority of cops. There were legislators. We weren't there to agitate. It wasn't until the agitators came and started making a scene. But she compared that to January 6th. Can you believe that?
Okay. The reason I stood up wasn't for that, but I want to thank Brian from the heart, because if it hadn't been for them, Ryan would be in jail. There's no doubt in my mind. As a retired state trooper, I never had to go through what Ryan did. If somebody came at me like a judge, I'd write them a ticket for speeding, and the next thing I know is the chief would be calling me, going, and it's like, yeah, you pay me to write tickets, chief, and they were always very supportive. I don't know if I could work the same way today that I worked 12 years ago, because if somebody complained to Mary Moriarty, whether it was true or not, she'd find a way to charge me. And she's now has retribution on troopers by now asking for their their history from the patrol. So if I were to go into the court, she'd call the chief and say, yeah, I want all of John's paperwork. Has he ever done anything wrong? Okay, yeah, so that's they have a right to do that, but they usually have a right to do that only if there is like probable cause to have that. Anyway, so judges, judicial retention. Okay, this is actually a lot simpler, and there's certain things I can say Brian can't because he has to negotiate with people. I'm just running for office. But judicial retention, folks, you go in, and there are all these judges, and they're running unopposed. And it doesn't make any difference if they were some of the bad judges from Minneapolis that made bad decisions that put police officers in jail. If we had a thumbs up or a thumbs down vote, and it's as simple as that, you're a judge, we know that you've been doing a terrible job, he either gets a vote yes or he gets a vote no. And if there are more no's than yeses, they're gone. Now, will we be without judges for a little bit? Yeah, I'd rather be without a bad judge for a little while. And then I think the good judges, I mean, because when county attorneys start calling Brian going, hey, I would have never charged that, you know that there's some concern and worry. Mary Moriarty sits back and it's like, I have no concerns, I have no worries, because no matter what I do, I'm not being held accountable. I know Jim, I know Brian. These are the two guys that we want to have fighting for us. And again, I just want to say thank you so much to that man, because, you know, when you look at these young troopers, I was one of those young troopers. I don't know what I would have done. Every morning you get up going, am I going to be the next Chauvin? And what's my little boy going to do? What's my wife going to do? What's my family going to do? And then am I going to get stabbed when I'm in jail? And all I ever wanted to do was be a police officer. So again, thank you for everything, Brian.
Thanks, John. Yeah, real quick, I think, John, what you're talking about is a trooper case where there were 7 troopers that pursued a vehicle of a felon, got the State Patrol helicopter involved, ended up catching the guy in an apartment, had drugs, had a gun, and she now wants to review the trooper's personnel record. How crazy is that? We're not focused on the criminal. We want to go after the cops, again, who did their job. It's crazy. It's hard to believe that I'm standing before you talking about these things. It's how far we've gotten. And I hope to get us back the other way.
Hi, I have a question. What is your view on Minneapolis just hiring a non-citizen police officer in the force, and how that ever happened?
That someone else asked me about that earlier, and I'm not too familiar with that, but I don't know how it can happen. We have laws in Minnesota. We have educational requirements. We have all these things that a police officer has to go to. So I'm not familiar with it. I know somebody sent me an article, but I haven't read it yet. But that's the lengths that, in my opinion, Minneapolis has to go to try to recruit people to work there. But there should be those standards. There should be those requirements, in my opinion.
Can I get on? Don Patton, Brian, thank you for coming. And John, thank you for connecting us with this guy.
And if you don't know, Don is former Army.
Yeah.
And when I sat down with him, I said, you know what Army stands for, right? And he said, no. I said, aren't ready to be Marines yet.
Censored. You know, we've been talking about politics and law, but I want to bring it back to something that's important called economics. Many of you don't follow this. I've got a background in real estate. Many of you may have eaten at a place called Ruth's Chris, downtown Minneapolis. That was on the books, EMV, market value, almost $75 million. It just sold for $6.5 million. The premier real estate tower in downtown Minneapolis is the Wells Fargo Tower. It's on the books for $300 million. It's being negotiated right now for about $100 million. The information that I had, there are 4 or 5 other premier, different classes of real estate downtown Minneapolis that are on the market right now for huge deductions. The city of Minneapolis, it gets back into the city council leadership. I think I just saw recently that they increased their budget by 8%. So what will happen with all of these real estates, and by the way, the Hilton Hotel just got sold at a sheriff's sale. So with all of these big taxpayers going down, they will get their taxes reduced. What will then happen? The city of Minneapolis will then increase the taxes to you Minneapolis taxpayers in the single family.
Thank you, Don. Do you have a question?
I'm trying to reinforce what he's saying. Yes.
Thank you.
But it is an economic thing, and if we don't get back to something that Tad has talked about, make a crime a crime, it's a death spiral for the next 8 to 15 years, I think.
Thank you, Don.
Well,
next question.
If you listen to the mayor, everything's great, right?
Yeah.
Come back down. I worked downtown for 4 years when I was with Target, and at the time they were redoing Nicollet Street, and I saw it. They spent millions revitalizing that street. What did it turn out to be? Anytime you went out for lunch, you got accosted. You got people defecating and peeing, and but everything's great. Nothing to look at here. Come back downtown.
I wanted to circle back to the Lonergan case when you told us how some of the senior prosecutors on that case could no longer prosecute, wanted to withdraw, and then the county attorney went attorney shopping, found the firm in D.C. I think it's worth noting that her procuring them or hiring them had to be approved by the county board. And so many of us in the audience here live in Hennepin. It was our county commissioners who, I don't know what the vote was, probably 7-0 or maybe 6-1. I mean, the county board, your county commissioner, said okay. They could have said, go back and fix your office, or, that could have been handled in-house. I mean, so the taxpayer, us of Hennepin County, as you pointed out, got saddled with that expense. I think we need to be more aware of who our county commissioner is, and when stuff like this is on the front burner, we need to be calling him. That's all.
Nope, you're 100% correct, and I will give a shout out to Commissioner Jeff Lundy, who has been an avid supporter of law enforcement. He was against that vote. And sometimes we all have short memories. And when Mary pitched that idea, she said, at most, it's going to cost $1 million. Okay? In 1 month, they blew almost up to $800,000. And for the law firm out of Washington, what do they have to lose? They don't. They have nothing to lose except getting money. But that didn't last long.
Here? Go ahead.
I want to know what happened to the reform schools.
So, like Totem Town, the juvenile, a number of years ago, the legislature closed them down.
Why? They did a good job.
They did. And I'll tell you, Sheriff Bob Fletcher out of Ramsey County has continually pushed to reopen those types of schools. Yep, Red Wing's more of kind of a jail or prison. Totem Town, and I forgot the other organization, where they're more to try to steer these kids in the right direction early on. They did. They worked. And Sheriff Fletcher, Sheriff Fletcher, and we still continue to push. Yep. Because there's nothing out there. You talk to people like Sheriff Fletcher or others, there's no place to take these juveniles. There's no place to take them. So they're back out on the street after committing, crimes. It's not until they do something very serious to where there's consequences. And as we all know, if there's no accountability for your consequences, does that change your behavior? Absolutely not. If there's no accountability, what do I have to lose? And that's, especially with juveniles, that has been happening for a number of years, and that's why we're seeing the juvenile problem that we have, because there are no consequences. And then you have parents that look to the police or government to say, help me out. And we don't have the tools.
Yes. See, I would like to get back to those black license plates.
Yep.
When they first came out, I was excited about it, that I understood that revenue, or part of that revenue, was going to go to first responders, families, and so forth. Then I also understood that Minnesota itself says, okay, that's like a good deal. We're going to put a black license plates out too. So what is it? We got two, we got one.
Isn't that a coincidence?
Well, it says, I don't know, Walls would probably do that, yeah. So.
No, I brought up that same topic to the Commissioner of Public Safety. I said, isn't it coincidence that all of a sudden the state sees how much revenue is being created with these first responder plates, that all of a sudden Minnesota comes out with their own black plates? And a lot of people don't know the difference. Yeah. And that's something that we've tried to educate others, that the plain black plate, none of that goes to first responders. It's the Minnesota 100 plate that on the left-hand side, it has the Minnesota 100 logo, and it even talks about on the plate, money going to first responders. And again, I can't say enough good things about that organization, because I've been there when they've given the family a check. And I'll go back to something I said earlier. Think about losing that loved one who might have been the breadwinner. Now you're here saying, how am I going to pay the mortgage? How am I going to pay for a funeral? How am I going to pay for football, Little League, whatever? And that's where the Minnesota 100 Club is so important, because they come in with that influx of money. Yep, MPPOA and our Legal Defense Fund, we come in and apply for all the federal and state benefits, but that doesn't happen quickly. So that influx of money that they're able to provide is crucial. And if any of you, I know with the incident in Burnsville, the incident in Minneapolis with people losing their lives, another organization called Law Enforcement Labor Services and MPPOA, we partner to create a fund for those families. And we're able to raise money, and 100% of any money raised for those families go to them. And again, no amount of money is going to take away their grief and loss. But hopefully it gets them through that difficult time where they don't have to worry about finances. That's what we do. We help, we protect, and we have each other's back. Because it's absolutely heartbreaking sitting across a table of someone that just lost their loved one because of some idiot felon with a rifle. It's sad. So if you donated, thank you. And if, hopefully, knock on wood, we don't have another death anytime soon. But if we do, and you see fundraising from the MPPOA and Law Enforcement Labor Services, 100% of the money goes right back to them. And it sucks because there's organizations out there that put information out there that they're raising money, and not every dollar goes to the family. It's unfortunate. It's the world we live in.
One more question here.
We go up to Rogers every week to see our parents anyway. We stop at a Walgreens, and a worker there talks about people come in often and load up a cart and just take it out, and they're not allowed to do anything. She knows somebody who works at Walmart up there, and when somebody is stealing a whole cartload of stuff and they try to stop them, one of the employees tried to stop them and say, you need to pay for that. They got fired. Mm-hmm. Whatever happened to citizens' arrest?
Corporations are, I shouldn't say all, many corporations are scared of the impact of that employee getting into a scuffle or whatever. But you're right. When I worked in Brooklyn Center, and this is, I want to say early 2000s, Brooklyn Center has changed. And, you know, you go back to talking about economics, you need businesses in communities for that tax base. And we were so excited to have Walmart come into Brooklyn Center. And looking at the tax base, the revenue of we needed it. And at the time I was a commander, so I worked with Walmart before they came in, and they rate all their stores based off of crime numbers. And it was rated one of the highest levels. What does that mean? More investment for cameras, for more off-duty, for security. And eventually, if you don't know, the Walmart is no longer there. They left. Crime, to your point, was so bad, you would even have an officer there, but you'd have 20 people come in, steal stuff, and go. And Brooklyn Center isn't a department of 100 cops. There's only so many. And Walmart finally pulled out because of that issue. Crime was the number one issue. It wasn't that people aren't shopping here. It was one of the busiest Walmarts. But people started, law-abiding people, started saying, I'm not going to go down there. Look how bad it is. People are getting carjacked in the parking lot. People are getting assaulted in the parking lot. I'll drive 10 minutes further to Maple Grove to do my shopping. And now you have a big corporation like Walmart pulling out of Brooklyn Center, which financially really hurt the city. But it goes back to what the gentleman was saying about crime. It has that impact.
Thank you, Brian, for an excellent presentation and for taking so many questions. Really appreciate it. Thank you again.
Thank you.
All right. Where did I put my notes?
Dog ate 'em.
The dog ate my homework. Okay. By the way, I did hear from Jennifer DeJornett. She is ill today, and because I had turned off my cell phone very early as we set up, she wasn't able to contact me. So she apologizes for not being able to be here and speak with you. Our next meeting is November 12th. It will be after the election. That will be our last meeting for 2024, since we don't meet in December. Our featured speaker will be Edward Welsh, executive editor of the Twin Cities-based Charlemagne Institute. That is the publisher of Chronicles. It's a magazine of American culture. That's a print and online issue. They also publish Intellectual Takeout, which I'm sure many of you have heard of. Also in November, we'll continue our book exchange. And we invite you to bring political or history books you want to give away to others and look for some new reading. So, are there guests today who want to introduce yourself with your name and what town you came from? First-time visitor, guest who wants to say name and town? We've got one here.
Thank you. I was here last meeting, but I wanted to introduce myself for anybody that might not have been there. My name is Adam Veerhoff. I work with the Turning Point USA's high school field program, and we're just a youth grassroots organization that's looking to change the culture with the younger generation and instill American values and get them a little bit more civically engaged.
Thank you.
I'd like to pass out a business card to as many people as I can before I leave.
Thank you. Any other first-time visitors? A little more election news. The Trump campaign is continuing to be very active in Minnesota. I have information up here about the websites that you can go to join Trump Force 47, which is doing door knocking and telephoning. There are field offices throughout the state where you can pick up a sign. There is the election protection, Minnesota Election Integrity, Protect Your Vote, protectthevote.com/Minnesota, where you can become an election challenger, information about becoming an election judge, which again is still open, and you can report oddities that you notice while you are at the poll, and report those as soon as you see them, please. I encourage you to look for ways to help candidates. We have a special request for those who live in a senior living complex. Would you let us know which one you live in, and if you know the name of the activities director? Tad Jude and others are looking to go speak with seniors before they vote, so especially would be looking for help with that. You will be able to take information? Dennis there standing up would be able to take information about senior living complexes, and Dale would also be interested in taking information. I have information here from many of the congressional districts and your metro area BPOUs. All of them have newsletters that they're putting out weekly, monthly. I've got examples here. Sign up for the one from your area. Actually, I sign up for all of them because I'm interested in what's happening in the metro. There are holding events. They are supporting candidates. They are holding their own door-knocking events. Get involved. We can't stand to sit by the sidelines this election. One additional event that is coming up, Take Charge is having a lunchtime symposium. Kendall Qualls, who has spoken with this organization many times, is the executive director of that. That lunchtime symposium is October 25th. I have the brochure up here. It's a very modest $45 fee for that symposium. We, as Republican seniors, need some additional help. You noticed we had additional greeters at the door. We are looking for an additional volunteer or two to help us expand our email list to include legislative candidates and legislators for the next year. And so we need somebody who's willing to do a little bit of online research and get us the name and their campaign address, because we're not allowed to email them at the state headquarters at their job, their paid job for this state. At our meetings, given the bitter political climate, we would like a couple of people willing to serve as sergeants at arms in case we end up with a disruptive behavior, that you'd be willing to step in and handle it for us. Remember to tell a friend or a neighbor about our organization. Have them look at one of our recorded videos. That those online videos give people a good sense of what our organization does, our excellent speakers every month, and the camaraderie of being able to meet with fellow Republicans. Our speakers team is interested in gaining ideas of additional speakers you'd like to have come. Steve Anderson and Colonel Don Patton are looking for names, contact information of somebody you'd like to have speak with us in 2025. More information is up here. Take pictures with your phone to get the information. And now, 30-second announcements. I had a couple people who said they wanted to do a 30-second announcement. We've got a gentleman here.
I'm Ron Extam. I'm working with the Tad Jude campaign. I put on the table swipe red information. Relational marketing. We didn't grow up with it, but it's very powerful right now. I will be happy to give lessons on how to get it on your phone over in the right-hand corner up there right after the meeting. While I was sitting here in the meeting, I swiped 432 texts to potential TAD voters. That's the good news. The bad news is we need to swipe somewhere over 200,000 texts, so I need a little help. So up in the upper right-hand corner, please, after the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else had an announcement?
Just to piggyback on that, I hope you all do this swipe red stuff, but we have Tad Jude stuff available in the back. We have lawn signs, and we have 5-0 Vikings Tad Jude schedules available. But do check out that swipe red. That's what's going to win this for Tad. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other brief announcements? All right, we're ready for our door prize drawing. What's your number? Oh, that's your number, huh? Jan, would you draw the first one, please? All right, if your ticket ends with 0358. All right, come up and see me. And Pam, would you draw the next one? If your ticket ends in 0356. 0356. All right, come see me afterwards. We'll see you all November 12th. We are able to take your member renewal or new member information at the back of the room. Stop by the book table. See you then.
Republican Seniors of Minnesota. For more information, please visit republicanseniorsmn.com. While visiting our website, you can click on the video tab to watch videos of past meetings. Also, look for other tabs that bring you to our live player and other special video programs. Or on YouTube, search for Republican Seniors of Minnesota.